Bitcoin has been pulling back lately, and the big question everyone's asking is simple: is the top already in for this crypto cycle? We've seen huge volatility in the last few weeks, especially since last Friday. And as we move deeper into Q4, a period that's traditionally bullish for Bitcoin, analysts are now split on what comes next. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Type the word dump if you believe that the rest of October is going to remain bearish from here, or the word pump if you see Bitcoin making another push towards new all-time highs here soon. Today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what I believe is happening on Bitcoin in the charts, what we can look for and look to as we approach the weekend here, and whether Bitcoin is about to pump or dump into the end of this year. My name is Paul Sampson. Welcome back to DataDash. So folks, Bitcoin is essentially just ranging around from that huge drop that we saw last week and has essentially put in what is known as a head and shoulders down here around the lows that I think that many people are really focusing on, right? So generally this is a bearish pattern. It's a continuation to the downside. The way that you would measure the target of this is to take a trend line from the overall high down to where your neckline essentially would be. And then you would put that over here where we're breaking out. And that gives you a measured move down to like $104,000. Now, the only thing about these head and shoulders patterns, folks, is that they traditionally do not play out the right way when they're at the bottom of a move, okay? When they're at the top side, yes, that's sometimes when you can see a little bit more credibility around them, or a little bit more probability, I would say, that they play out a little bit more in turn. Here, I don't necessarily think that this is going to be something that turns into that 104. If anything, I got eyes down here at the local just gold pocket retracement. It is down below the lows. It front runs that 104 a little bit, right? So if anybody's looking for that measured move, we could come down in this region and get a little pop. And that's really only if we start closing below yesterday's low at the moment, at least. Really all the lows, right? So just be paying attention. If we start closing down below the 109, $500 region, then yeah, I'd say 107 is coming next on deck, next major support. Until then, locally, we ended up just actually taking yesterday's low. So in the realm of the trader world, technically we have a little daily target back up towards about 112,770. And we'll see how things kind of play out. But that's kind of how I'm looking at. Really no huge move here to be had, in my opinion, right off the rip, right? You're talking a 2 or 3% move to the downside, maybe a 2 or 3% move to the upside. Pretty much just range bound activity though, right? And it's pretty normal to see after we have such a sizable move like we had recently. So that's just the more local outlook here as we walk into the weekend, right? And while Bitcoin tends to range around, yes, on these every pullback, the altcoins unfortunately come with it. But when Bitcoin gets these slow grinds sideways and we get a little push higher at times, a lot of times the altcoins actually have a lot of room to run, right? So will be something to look towards there too. So we may get a bit of more ranging activity on Bitcoin, and that could lead into a decent altcoin movement, right? So I'm not necessarily saying everything's going to 2x or anything like that, but we could see some 10, 15, 20% moves out of the altcoins as Bitcoin just kind of finds its footing here. Now, to get to the question of, do I think that the top is in, and is Bitcoin about to have a sizable correction to the downside, right, of those big old bear markets that come right after we have those 4-year cycle tops? That is a question I get over and over again at times. I think that a lot of people are very, again, just very concerned with this timing. To be fair, like, this is a time frame where I did note both would be the area and the time where Bitcoin would have the next sizable retracement out of, right? So the 130 mark was definitely where I was looking at. We topped off around 126, but the entire ride, especially since our last 30% retracement back here at the beginning of the year, the 30% retracement over here last year, these are what I anticipate to come from this area that we just basically met, right? While I do anticipate this to be the area where we do consolidate and correct from for the next few months, basically, the answer to whether I think the market is about to dump or pump from here, as far as extremities would go, meaning that we pump to new all-time highs or we dump drastically, my answer to that is actually neither one, right? I think actually we're about to range for quite some time for Bitcoin, which again is going to offer up very great short-term opportunities, right? There's a lot of short-term moves, slow moves, weekly moves that will occur throughout that time frame as everybody's waiting with bated breath the next sizable move, when I think that that's actually going to come probably in another few months now, right? So I think that the top, as far as what everyone thinks about as the top, is like, oh, the all-time high top is in. I don't necessarily I don't know, right? Like nobody knows. I do think that a top is in at 126. Okay. I think that we have the likeliness to slowly rotate down to about $97,000, and from there have to reevaluate, right? And now that we're into the end of the year here, we can actually take a look at our overall yearly range here for Bitcoin. And one of the few times that, especially during a massive bull run, that we've actually pretty much stayed in a very small window here, right? So Bitcoin, I take that back. This is a pretty decent little shape up now that I'm looking at 60 or 70% for the overall low and high to come in. But the volume range is only 25%, right? So what that tells us is that we've just been pretty much consolidating this whole year, which I think we can all see and agree to, right? We opened up this year essentially $94,000, currently sitting at $20,000, $15,000 higher than that. We still have more than 2 months before the end of the year, so obviously things can change. But for me, I fully anticipate us to just range around within this region until the end of this year, okay? So that means that we could push up back towards the range high around the 120 mark. We could cruise down low to our untapped high time frame averages that are likely to be met. And then just when we're looking at this from, now obviously a little bit of hindsight, but when we had that big pullback last week, just pay attention to where we came down to, right? So again, we've been trading within this range. Usually the price action will seek out that point of control and just look at where the crash wicked right into. Very interesting stuff, right? So, so far we've come down, we've gotten a little bounce off that region. Could we push back up before we go down? Of course, right? That's something that's totally in the cards here. But overall, I'd say that Bitcoin is likely to bounce around between 97 and 120 for probably the next few months here. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole market's going to be dead. That's going to offer up, again, 5 and 6% moves throughout the week sometimes on Bitcoin, which as a trader, I mean, I live for that stuff. We get these. It's always great to have the big breakouts, but there, again, are a lot of opportunities in this market each and every week, even if Bitcoin's only moving in a small percentage basis. On top of that, the altcoins can still move when Bitcoin get to this region, right? And those big beloved altcoin seasons that everyone's constantly waiting on. Smaller versions of that can definitely occur while Bitcoin is just ranging around, right? So that's how I see the market coming for the next few weeks. We came into that big area from that AB equals CD, right? Again, I was targeting 130 to 140. We topped off at 126. We've already met the first major target of that pullback there. The secondary one is down around that $97,000. So I anticipate us to come down to that over the next few weeks. And then from that, we'll be, updating and evaluating as we go. So no matter which way Bitcoin breaks here, folks, whether we see one more leg higher or a deeper correction, this next stretch into Q4 will be critical for positioning ahead of 2026, in my opinion. And if you would like daily updates from me, along with Nicholas Mertens' Dash report each month, make sure to check out DataDashPro.com. Inside, you'll get my high time frame analysis, member updates, daily updates, short term as well for anybody that's looking to do any kind of day trading, the key levels for the day, Nick's macro outlook, all in one place, perfect for staying ahead of the major market, perfect for staying ahead of the next major market moves. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, please stay focused, stay disciplined. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, everyone, cheers.